Hello, my name's Joe McDonald and this is Big Mac's Battle Blog. So I thought I would revisit an old topic that's been coming up a bit recently, and that's recruitment. Recruitment for foreign volunteers. And just give you a general overview of the stuff I think you're going to encounter, you're going to have to do, going to have to think about as you come into Ukraine and join the military, So, and for this one, I've written notes, which is very organised for me. So, I'm not just talking off the top of my head. So, what's the first thing you should do? Whether you're thinking about coming to Ukraine or in Ukraine, already. You need to consider and then start contacting different units. Now, these days, you need some kind of letter of recommendation to join most units. And that normally means you have to have some kind of profile and evidence of usefulness and ability that they can look at. So, if you've already been in the military and you've got all the paperwork and stuff to say that you actually are X, Y, and Z, then you should just bring that and speak to Ternopil. And yeah, a little segue at this point. I'm not sure how easy it is for people with an artillery or air defence background to find a unit, mostly down to language, I think. I'm not sure. I need to look at that lens, don't I? I'm not sure how easy it is for people to find a unit, but there are people working with Western NATO artillery in Ukrainian units over here, and that might be, that's a big area of foreigners who I want to appeal to. If you spent your career in the artillery or in the air defence, there's chances are you didn't get, especially in the air defence, you might not have even got to fire your weapons system more than once. Those things are expensive, and so it might have been a pretty boring bit of military service for you. But if you come to Ukraine and you've got evidence that you are qualified on X, Y, and Z air defence or artillery system, and if you've put some time into learning Ukrainian and Russian, and you're, because obviously any technical job, anything more than stand in a trench and when the bad men come across the field you shoot, requires a lot of communication, So if you put the time into learning some of the language, you'll be able to find a job here that pays pretty good money, and you will be doing the job you were trained to do. Air defence and artillery guys are absolutely at a premium here. You will operate in much more secret environments than the infantry and stuff do. You'll be doing like God's work basically. So that's something that I want to appeal to recruits. Ukraine needs infantry, and we need guys to come over here and get themselves qualified as drone pilots or technicians, and there's a lot of courses available now that aren't too hard to find when you're in the country. So there is some difference of approach. Essentially, if you've got no military training, come to Ukraine, get yourself on a drone course, and then go to a military commissariat or Ternopil and start the process. Now, okay, let's just check my notes again, because we did get tangented. I'm good at that. Researching units. There's a lot more units take foreigners than you'd think. And there's also a lot of units that don't take foreigners. Usually units that have had them at one point and it just didn't work out for various reasons, So you need to do your own research online. You need to ask around when you're in country. Like the whole unmanned systems force takes foreigners. Their website's set up to be translated into English. It's a bit of a giveaway. The airborne forces take foreigners. The Marines take foreigners. Now, what unit you're going to join and how many will be there, don't know. Sometimes you can just meet someone. You might just meet a guy, right, while you're in Lviv or Kiev, wherever, having a beer. And this guy will be on leave and he's from this unit and that's what you used to do in the military, or that's the course that you've just passed a drone course and he's on a drone team. You might find a way into a unit and a recommendation like that. Okay, but other than joining, when you get to Ternopil, the units you can just hang around and join. You might want to consider why there are always vacancies there. But, war's war. And if you put yourself into extremely intense places with intense units that do the toughest of the fighting, and if you put yourself into a role like basically anything that's infantry these days, you are exposing yourself to a lot of danger. Now, drones is still dangerous. We are essentially, what drones do a lot of stuff on the battlefield now that infantry used to do, that soldiers used to do. So, forward observing, for instance, for mortars, artillery, rocket artillery, even as a joint tactical air control, that for plane, delivered munitions, for aviation delivered rockets, missiles, bombs. Drones even act as that now. So there are some really high grade, high level of training jobs that a drone pilot with a relatively low level of training and a relatively low level experience can do well, with a cheap drone system. So those things, have already been replaced. It's also replaced a lot of reconnaissance in general, observation of paths, observation of minefields, etc., etc. Obviously on-foot reconnaissance is still vital and important, but in the topography of Ukraine, which is usually a big flat-ish field with a tree line on either side and the field's kilometres wide, on-foot reconnaissance can be extremely difficult until you actually get into, like, say, a village, and then, there's certain things that a drone can't do, like go into basements and listen. Drones don't have ears. Well, some of them do, but generally speaking, if they have ears, like, most of what you can hear is the engine, and that's why they've got an audible thing, so you can check what the engine sounds like. I think. So, again, we got tangented, but I would say if you've already got military experience, come to Ukraine, head to the commissariat, display your CVs. Okay? If you don't, come to Ukraine, have some money to sustain yourself, get yourself on a couple of drone courses, and in the meantime, get yourself fit. You should have been getting yourself fit and already be quite fit before you cross the border for Ukraine. Once you get into a unit, right, you might get some exercise in basic training, but that will not be the focus. It's not like the turning guys into, from nothing into frontline soldiers. As an international, you're expected to turn up kind of half ready. You haven't been dragged off the street. You've been volunteered. You volunteered yourself. So, turn up, like, as I was saying on the last video, if you want to get yourself really fit in a short space of time, find a farmer or a fencing company, right, and be like, look, you can pay me 50 quid a day, right? You can pay me cheap. All I want to do is dig holes and knock in fence posts. And if you do 2-3 weeks of digging post holes and knocking in big telegraph pole fence posts or whatever on a farmer's farm, if you just find a guy who's like digging ditches and it's like, I want to be dirty and kind of wet and physically uncomfortable and tired and sore for shit money for 3 weeks, you'll be hard as fuck after that. Like 3 weeks of digging holes and banging in fence posts will turn you for like to someone who the mates who take the piss out of you now will be looking at going, fucking hell, I think I might speak to him in a bit of a nicer way from now on. He looks like he might smash my fucking head in. So yeah, it's pretty easy to get yourself fit. You just need to do it for fucking 8 hours a day every day. You know, you need to go and do, because most of what the army requires you to do, you need to think of in terms, like, unless you are, again, if you are an assault trooper, being really, really fit and being able to run fast with gear repeatedly many times a day and be moving all the time is hyper fucking important. For most other roles, be it like, you know, mortars or artillery or whatever, the kind of, or, you know, engineering, like sapper work, drones, the kind of work you're doing is more like sort of a construction labourer's job in many ways, i.e. you have to get some heavy equipment, like really heavy equipment, to a certain distance, to a certain place, be it indoors or outdoors. And then when you start operating that equipment, it's more like a team of guys unloading a pallet of bags of cement in a particular and efficient and fast-paced way than anything else, you know. So it's that kind of fitness. And it's the kind of, you know, it's not just about fitness, it's about, you know, mental fortitude, like the ability to just pay attention to something that's rather dull, usually, for many, many hours. Which is, again, a reason I think it's better that people over the age of 25 come, you know, people who've had, like, the workplace and life break their spirits a little bit, you know, make you accept that a lot of, like, what you have to do as an adult is doing something boring that you don't particularly enjoy, so you can have money to do the things you do enjoy. Military's a lot like that a lot of the time. Most of the time it's dull. You're just waiting around to either be told what to do or, you know, for the enemy to start doing stuff to you, you know. So yeah, anyway, let's go back to the notes. We've definitely got well tangented here, but that's what I'm all about. Yeah, what do you want to bring to Ukraine initially? Right, do not turn up with a load of fucking shit, like shit old leather boots and your dad's fucking DPM uniform from the 80s, or your crap from Airsoft, or whatever. Just don't, right? You're better off coming in pure civilian clothes. Now, take in mind what time of year you come. Ukraine is mostly a hot place from north to south most of the year round. You know, you do get rain and stuff, a fair bit of rain up in Kyiv and Kharkiv, but, you know, even Kharkiv in 22 was just like sunny as fuck all the time. So, you know, you may want to, like, bring a light rain jacket, you know, to start with. That should be it. Bring things like, you know, especially if you're going to be embracing your fitness and doing some hiking before you come. Start thinking about, you know, the army's going to give you a medical kit to deal with having your fucking leg blown off and things like that, right? But it doesn't give you a medical kit to deal with boo-boos and upset tum-tums. And that's something you really should be thinking about as a soldier, right? Like, in your bag and about your person, you should have things to deal with, you know, a cut, little bit of antiseptic gel, you know, for disinfecting something in a pinch, some plasters on a roll for doing your feet or bigger injuries that don't justify an Israeli, bleed stop powder, a little bit extra of that in case you, again, if you get a gash, like a nasty gash because you've fallen on a bit of fucking broken glass, or a nasty bit of barbed wire, sticky out metal, etc. You don't necessarily want to be cracking into your Israeli bandages, which is really there for, like, you know, big chunks of your meat being missing or big pieces of metal having gone into you. You know, it's yeah. You know, you want to have stuff for that. You also want to consider, say you get sent on a mission, right, and you get sick for whatever reason. You could just come down with, you know, you're going to be mixing with dudes from all over the world. COVID and summer flu exists, right, more or less. You know, something like COVID exists anyway. Fuck, I'm not getting into that. But yeah, you know, you could get sick in the summer. Well, what antibiotics do they tell you to take for 90% of things every time? 90% of normal things every time the doctor, you know, amoxicillin. And there's another antibiotic that's called I should have checked this before I did the ferrocycline. It's for upset stomachs. It's for if you've got like amoebas and bacteria in your stomach, and you know, yeah, that's another thing, you know, because yeah, dysentery, getting the shits when you're out on a mission has killed more soldiers across history than anything else, and it can still kill you today. You'd think it couldn't, but imagine just being in a situation where you haven't got enough water, and that is a very big risk that can happen, especially if you're doing infantry type missions in this war. And now, because you ate something without washing your hands, or some bit of dust, right, that was actually fecal matter, got in your fucking mouth, right, in a filthy building that's been occupied by soldiers for a long time, and there's shit in the floors, and a fucking fly with shit on its legs got in your mouth, right? Yeah, now you've got fucking dysentery. Yeah, so having a set of antibiotics for that, which you can just buy, by the way, at the pharmacy in Ukraine, you know, do a little Googling. You need, you know, one for basic fucking infection. You know, you have managed to have a cut. That cut is clearly becoming infected. You're stuck on a mission. You should have some antibiotics with you. You get a bad stomach. You're going to get dysentery. You should have some antibiotics with you. And rehydration salts. You know, things like that, basically. Like, maybe some vitamin C powder if you fucking want, you know, to like help with recovery. But yeah, rehydration salts, plasters and roll plasters, and a couple of little bandages to deal with non-major trauma level injuries. You know, some paracetamol and ibuprofen, and some aspirin. Again, you know, and like read up on like the different like times you should be there. Like ibuprofen's for reducing inflammation. Paracetamol, aspirin are like painkillers. I believe aspirin does also have a anti-inflammatory effect as well. But yeah, do a little reading up on that. Have some basic, being a fucking adult, like medical home care knowledge, right, on top of the TCCC that you should be studying on YouTube, and that's something you're going to be taught in the army. But you know, yeah, acquire yourself a tourniquet and start practicing putting it on now in different fucking, not just stood up, right, just it's in our pocket, move it around to different pockets, and you know, maybe like get someone to like hold your arm behind your back or something like that, so you can simulate only having one arm, and do it lying down and do it sitting down. Practice shit like that, you know, get your head into it, because it's super important stuff. Everyone going into a war zone should know it. You know, TCCC is super important, but yeah, like making sure you don't become sick or in a condition that affects your efficiency is your first fucking duty as a soldier. You know, it's your first duty is to maintain your basic condition and ability to fight. So, medical kit for boo-boos, something you definitely should have. Wash kit, yeah. Make sure you bring a fucking wash kit and a fucking towel with you. Obviously, this stuff can be obtained in Ukraine cheaply, but you might actually find it quite hard to find the bag. I've found them, but it took a bit of time. So yeah, bring a fucking wash kit. Fancy military kit that you may own, I am going to say, right, if you've got anyone back in your life who you trust, right, put it in a box, like your night vision and your thermal sight and right, and get your friend to get that to a Nova Poster, and they operate all over the world now. Nova Poster, it's a delivery service, it's a post office that's from Ukraine. And so, you know, they're in New York, they're in New London, they're in Manchester, New London, did I just... Yeah, whatever. They're in fucking London. Yeah, they're in France, they're in Germany, Poland, etc. Holland. So you can just Nova Poster something to someone in Ukraine really easily now. Doesn't cost a lot of money either. Fucking $20 or something from the other side. I don't know, depends on the side of the package, but it's affordable. And it's efficient and it's reliable, and it won't get lost. So if you've got stuff like that, try and get someone to post it to you once you've actually found your unit and got settled. You don't want that stuff lying around in your duffel bag when you're going through the recruit process. Same story in every part of the world, only the dickheads here, when they find out it actually involves hard work, sacrifice and risk, you know, they tend to suddenly break contract and disappear in the early days after them being like, oh yeah, me and you mate, I'll be there for you whatever happens, you know. Yeah. You know, another worth bringing up this, I don't want to put you all off, right? You are going to meet some people here who will become your really, really good friends, and they'll be really good if you are a good, principled person, right? Who's here for mostly honourable reasons, at least. It's okay if your life's a little bit fucked up back home. I don't think that makes you dishonourable, you know. I think it's probably been part of the reason men are like, yeah, all right, I'll go off to war, since war and women were invented, you know, forever, basically. So yeah, but don't worry if your life's a little bit fucked up. That doesn't make you dishonourable. But you know, some people do come here just because they've got nothing, or because they're kind of psychos, you know, of some level. It turns out that, you know, being a psycho and like not having much morals and just being like, yeah, I just want to like shoot some people, you know, also like tends to go hand in hand with being a fucking coward. And those guys just don't last, you know. But anyway, I digress. Notes. Most important thing, above all other things that you can focus on when you come to Ukraine, whether it's doing a drone course or the equipment you bring or how you prepare in your fitness, is to focus on the fucking language. Now, they do have a different alphabet, and the Russian alphabet is ever so slightly different to the Ukrainian alphabet, right? It is. At least Google tells me that. Some people might disagree, I don't know. It's confusing, okay? Now, the other thing that's a bugger is, you know, a really simple sentence that's translated from English to Ukrainian and then English to Russian might produce quite poetically different versions of more or less the same thing. So it's difficult. Now, there are other translate programs out there, okay? And there's also language learning programs, Duolingo being the most famous one. I think it's kind of shit. And yeah, but before you come, if you're putting like 5 or 10 or 20 hours or whatever it is into fitness a week, you should be doing a same amount or half the amount or whatever. You need to be making daily roads into learning Ukrainian and Russian and Shuzhik, which is the combination thing, okay? So getting an old-fashioned notebook, right, and actually writing, you know, the Cyrillic Ukrainian down and maybe the Russian down as well, you know, because learning Russian and Ukrainian at the same time is not a terrible idea, because you're going to encounter a lot of people who speak a mix or who speak Russian here, because that's just how it is. Much like, you know, a lot of Irish, not want to upset any Irish people here, but you know, definitely a few decades ago, there was a lot of people who didn't speak Gaelic in Ireland. There's a lot of Welsh people who didn't speak Welsh because of English colonisation, basically, and oppression of the language. And it's the same thing here, right? And, you know, the kind of guys who have been working, you know, as a construction labourer or part of a haulage company the whole life, they're not about to start speaking, you know, how a well-educated guy from Kiev or Lviv speaks in the middle of the war. So don't let the fact that they speak Russian put you off. It's just a fucking reality. Because here's another reality to consider. However good a fucking soldier you are, whatever your skill set is, you can't fucking communicate fuck all, right, if you can't speak the language. If you can't... And it's not just... You can't just write English or how an English or American person speaks. Yeah, you can't just do that. And Google Translate will make sense of it for you. You know, you've got to learn how to use these translate programs. You've got to learn the alphabet. You know what I mean? The first thing you should do is learn the alphabet, so you can start, like, at least reading words like pectopar, restaurant. You know, so super important. You could come here and have the most amazing military career you can imagine. Okay, I've got to be one of the greatest, like more of a badass than I thought was possible. You know, I've done things over the last couple of years that I can't properly tell you about for a very long time that produced incredible results. Now, I was just part of those operations, but the part I played in it was important. You know, I've got to smash very large numbers of the enemy and large numbers of vehicles and extremely expensive vehicles and systems as part of my service here. I had no idea that that was what was going to happen, and it has, you know, and that is something that's open to you. And I'd say this for people who are like umming and ahhing on the line between military and drones. In the private security world in the future, which is possibly where you're thinking of getting a job, who do you think's going to be fucking paid more? Guys whose, whatever their military CV, the actual use and, you know, the usefulness to an employer, to a contractor, is essentially a fucking sentry, you know? Or someone who can survey and coordinate the everyone, whether it's on your side or, you know, to see what the enemy doing within like 10 square kilometre with like a couple of grand's worth of kit. Who do you think's getting paid more? Who is more viable for protecting ships from piracy? Some dudes with fucking M60s, if they're allowed them, like old machine guns or SLRs, you know, shooting at pirate boats, or a bunch of dudes who can fly wire-guided FPV. Who do you think's doing that, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, I think, you know, being in a Ukrainian drone unit, pretty fucking cool thing to have on your CV, mate. You can show evidence to an employer that you're an FPV pilot. If I wanted to protect my shipping from pirates, yeah, something that can reach out 10 or 20 kilometres is a lot better than, oh God, there's a boat full of explosives coming at us, start shooting at it with rifles and hope that the bullet sets off the explosives. And bullets aren't particularly good at setting off explosives, it may surprise most of you to know, at least not most explosives. Anyway, I digress. What are we up to now? So, the kit you're going to get. What kit are you going to get issued now you're in the military? Well, most of it's pretty good. Like the standard issue Ukrainian plate carrier you get now, I remember when they first came out in 22, and it was better than what like most of the American labs had brought over from the like personal or ex-military kit, right? So, it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with the uniform whatsoever. I also highly recommend that when you're in the combat zone, do you know, like, as a drone pilot, right? Drone pilots and snipers, I imagine, anyone who can make a choice, we target people who stand out, yeah, in whatever way. If you're carrying a big weapon, you know, Just like they used to target the flamethrower guys. And like, if you're carrying a fucking drone gun, or if you're 2-3 guys carrying a mortar system, or a machine gun, or if you're the sniper, right? Or if you're wearing loads of fancy kit and you've got like the quad night vision on your fucking helmet in the middle of the day for some reason, right? We're targeting you, yeah? So looking like a normal uke grunt is better. Survival in the herd, yeah? So don't worry too much about standing out. I mean, having nice things that make your life more comfortable, like high quality boots, especially for the summer. Like I said, Ukrainian issue winter boots are tip fucking top. You don't need anything else. You know, making sure you've got nice thin wool and bamboo socks for the summer, nice thick ones for the winter. That's something you should spend money on. Making sure you've got nice quality long underwear, because the quilted stuff they give you the winters alright, but the cotton stuff is not optimal. The thin cotton stuff is alright for the summer, but it's not optimal for the fucking winter at all. You know, making sure you've got some nice a set or two of nice merino wool long johns, you know, is good. You know, the fucking what else do you need to buy? Notes. Helmet. You might get a fast helmet with rails, right, which is what you need. Okay, you might get one of them. That you can also get the ones that have got a bit more earring cover, but it also means the headphones fit weird. I don't like it. The reason you want headphones is for €200 now, right, thereabouts, in Ukraine, you can buy a perfectly good set of active hearing protection headphones. Some of them are even got a little bit of fucking UMP in and are rated at like level 1, apparently, you know. And level 1 armor, I'm going to come to this, is still good. And definitely worthwhile, whatever the fucking yank marketing campaigns and media and gun bros would say, yeah, because they haven't been shelled. Level 1 armour and level 1 armour add-ons to your plate carrier package, good. I digress. So yeah, headphones. The main reason you want them is to protect your ears. Like, active hearing protection will help prevent you getting contusions and brain damage from shells and artillery, whilst allowing you to hear your environment and your teammates speak better. So it's really, really good. Make sure you get ones that run off a rechargeable battery, right? Definitely, okay? And if you get the ones with Bluetooth and fucking and a microphone, you can also take phone calls, which is a major way you're going to be communicating on the battlefield. It might be Signal or WhatsApp, but you might need to take a phone call, especially if you find yourself in some kind of commander role, or if you speak a bit of Ukrainian and you're working on a drone team and you need to convey intelligence and information that we found out. So, you know, get yourself that helmet. The plates, you might get issued Ukrainian manufacturer steel plates. They're heavy. You need to keep them and hand them back in at the end. Mine lived on the floor of my car for a long time as like some nominal shrapnel protection, you know. So yeah, you might need to beg, buy, borrow or steal a set of lighter plates. I would say, again, if you are not, once you've worked out that your job is not the kind of job where you spend a lot of time actually being shot at, like with guns, you might consider that some like much lighter level 3A resin plates, right, that'll still take fucking rifle round, you know, just not an armor piercing sniper round. They'll still take a rifle round, or at least a couple of them, you know, might be better. Yeah, it might be better to just have that 1 kilogram or 1 and a bit kilogram plate front and back that offers you, you know, very like good protection rather than the 3-4 kilogram plate or the fucking steel 8 kilo plate. You know, like, yeah, you might decide that level 3 or level 3A is just plenty enough, but you may need to buy your own plates. The plates they give you and the helmet they give you will be perfectly serviceable, but they do not really allow you to wear ear protection at the same time, even with just a headphone set, you know, as like normal earring protection, because some people who don't have fancy headphones take that with them because it's like, yeah, I'm just, you know, they're going to shell us a lot. It's good to have these. So yeah. Also, you know, if you don't already own optics and thermals, night vision, it's available for damn sure, and a little bit more expensive than Europe and America, but not that much here. And, you know, there's always the chance you might find someone who's leaving who has such things and would take a decent price for what they're leaving with. So there's that to consider as well. Don't worry about coming with all the fucking gear, right? It might be a terrible mistake for you because you might come and be like, oh, I really, really don't like this, you know, and now you've spent your life savings on everything, and, you know, like I said, you're not gonna get your money back trying to sell the gear to the guys here, because fucking hell, old timers like me have got mountains of kit after a year or two of service. You know, we don't know what to do with half of it, can't give it away. So yeah, blah 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 blah. Wages. At the moment, combat pay is, well, there's a few grades of pay in the Ukrainian military. Let's discuss them. If you are stationed outside of the combat zone, to the best of my understanding, nearly everyone in the Ukrainian military is on 20,000 hryvnia a month, which is not a lot of money at all. You almost certainly will not spend much time other than an initial month or two, whatever, training in a zone like this, okay? There are semi-combat zones like Odessa, where you're more likely to be on like 60,000. I believe the GER or parts of GER, I'm not sure, the Legion or most of the Legion is under GER now, but some bits of the Legion are still not under GER. It's really confusing. No one knows. But yeah, some bits of GER, which is like the Directorate of Intelligence, when they're in Kyiv, they're on 60,000 a month, and when they go on missions, they're on 120. But there's also this like super duper high rate combat pay that bumps you up to like 170,000 hryvnia a month, but I think for that you have to do like 20 days out the fucking month actually in like a forward position or something. So, you know, I've also heard rumour there may be a pay cut, which would be a really, really bad idea, especially as they now seem to be offering like 2 million signing bonuses to young drone pilots. Is that available to foreigners? I don't know. You should find out, right? Is the site, what units are offering that? Some units are offering, now 2 million hryvnias is roughly $50,000, right? So that's the sort of money that you could buy like a nice apartment in Odessa or Kyiv with pretty much straight away. Okay, maybe not right bank Kyiv or central right bank Kyiv, but left bank Kyiv, yeah, you could probably buy a little apartment for that over there. Anyway, I digress. So the money is okay. Like, it's definitely, you know, if you don't get a fucking expensive, I don't understand, some guys have got like a Ukrainian girlfriend and somehow they're managing to spend all their fucking combat pay. I advise against this, you know. I advise against this. There are There are more cash efficient ways to achieve what you need to achieve when you get your 3-month holiday than funding someone's lifestyle while you're at war, you know. But anyway, that's up to you. Some guys, yeah, be careful. Yeah, advice to new recruits: be careful. People are scared. I was scared when I come here. I remember coming back after my trip to the Netherlands and feeling this anxiety in my gut once I crossed the border again. You're back in the combat zone, you're back in Ukraine, you're travelling towards a place where people are trying to kill you, you know? And that can make even a wise and mature man fall in with company that he normally would not. And I'm going to say now that, yeah, you know, if do not lend money to anyone under any fucking circumstances. Like, buying a round of drinks and sharing your smokes is one thing. But if the cunt never fucking does anything back, just confront it with him and then cut him dead if he doesn't, you know. Just like, I've noticed, you know, you've asked me about fucking 10 times for a cigarette now, and we've been to the shop a couple of times. I've noticed you don't buy your own smokes. What the fuck's up with that? You know? Okay, people who can't manage the finances over here are people you want to avoid. People who need to borrow money are people you want to avoid. People who call you brother, right, and give you this big, don't mate, when we get there, if something happens, I'll be there for you. Right, listen, cunt, right, when you're in a firefight and someone gets wounded, their duty is self-care. Your duty is to win the firefight, or at least lay down enough suppressing fire, or ideally kill the enemy, and then rescue your mate. Because if everyone starts focusing on the casualty, because we're constantly outnumbered and constantly outgunned and constantly have more artillery working against us than the enemy than we have working against the enemy in every battle in this war, all the fucking time, right? If we all go to, oh God, Johnny's hit, the first time someone goes down, then we'd lose all the time. So your job is to medical yourself, and we'll come and get you if it's convenient to the tactical necessities of the firefight that's happening at the time. That's the fucking reality. Don't like it? Don't fucking come, okay? This is not a movie. So, you know, be aware of things. I need another great reason about, as I said, why you want to practice putting on fucking tourniquets before, you know? Because screaming medic and expecting everyone to come running through cones of machine gun fire to get you, right? You might not get the results you want, especially if you're the kind of selfish, lazy cunt who never buys his own smokes. You know what I mean? And your general demeanour and attitude is obnoxious and not conducive to respect from other men. You know, you might find that all your mates have suddenly gone deaf on the battlefield when you're screaming for fucking help, and the gunfire and the enemy is just too much and they can't hear you right now. You might find that out. So, you know, be nice, keep yourself clean, help your friends, share your fucking sweets, you know what I mean? But don't lend fucking money to people, and don't like fall in with people like that. Don't, you know, go if you're in Ternopil or whatever. If you're going out for a couple of beers at dinner, right? Then by all means, right? That's fine. But if you find yourself falling in with a bunch of dickheads who are getting like shouting and getting themselves into trouble in the streets and stuff, avoid these fucking cunts. I made that mistake. Nothing about being a lad makes you a good soldier at all. And being a good soldier like means that you are good at following the jobs the commander gives you and noticing problems, right, and trying to fix them, trying to make things better in your environment. It does not mean doing the bare minimum and hitting the fucking cans the minute you get off shift, right? You know, and being unreliable, because there's fucking cunts like that you'll meet. There's no end to waifs and strays who'll come over here, you know. So keep yourself, try and find, you know, especially if you're a younger lad, maybe try and find someone who's middle age and is like a decent sort of dad, to you. You know, if he starts touching you up, you've made a bad mistake. But you know, fucking, if you can find yourself a bit of an uncle or a big brother who's not on the piss all the time and doesn't want to lead, you know, do not be inspired. If you feel that someone is a proper soldier and confident, and you have confidence in them, unless you're dedicated to doing an infantry job, right? Don't think that just because people are fit and confident and have good training that that's going to save you from the guns. Yeah. So again, be careful about what paths you get led down. That's something to consider as well. You know, once you're over here, you're an adult on your own. The decisions you make might have extremely permanent consequences for you. You know, there isn't any like replay. You are here, and this is now. The choices you matter, and the preparations you make matter. Right, where are we at? Yeah, I guess that's about it. So, good chat. I hope it was as useful. So, it's goodbye from me, Joe McDonald at Big Mac's Battle Blog. And as always, to our pro-Russian and Vatnik listeners, Idi Nahoy Zalupa.